A soft wind moved across the Heartland ranch, touching every fence post, every tree, every broken memory. The land looked calm, but Amy's heart was not. It had been years since Ty's death, but the pain still lived deep inside her. She smiled for Lindy. She worked with horses. She tried to stay strong. But something inside her was still broken. Then one morning, as the sun rose behind the hills, a whisper of something impossible drifted through the air. A sound, a feeling, a presence. Amy froze. Could it be? No, Ty was gone. But why did it suddenly feel like he was near? Amy got up early each day, like she always had. She made breakfast for Lindy, packed her little bag, and watched her ride off to school with Katie. Amy tried to be happy. She laughed when Lindy told her jokes. She helped Jack feed the horses and spent time training new rescues. But when no one was looking, her smile disappeared. Ty's old jacket still hung by the door. His mug still sat in the kitchen cupboard. Amy hadn't touched it, couldn't touch it. Sometimes she stood by the lake at sunset, just watching the still water, remembering the days they rode together, free and full of love. But those days were gone. At the ranch, everyone had changed. Jack had grown quieter, older somehow. He still worked hard, but there was a heaviness in his steps. Lou had taken over more business deals, trying to keep everything running smooth. Tim was Tim, loud and stubborn, but even he had moments where he looked out across the fields and just sighed. Amy found peace in working with the horses. One in particular, a young wild Mustang, reminded her of Ty, the way it fought at first, the fire in its eyes. She named it Ghost. No one asked why. They all knew. When she spoke to Ghost, her voice softened. You don't trust anyone yet, I get that, but maybe one day you'll let someone in. Her hand touched the animal's neck gently. Ghost didn't move away, not this time. One day, Amy was in the barn brushing Ghost when she heard something strange. A sound, soft but familiar. A whistle. One she hadn't heard in years. Her heart jumped. She looked outside quickly, but no one was there. Just wind and trees. She shook her head. I'm tired, that's all. She turned back to the horse, but her hands were shaking. That night, she had a dream. Ty stood in the field, wearing his old coat. He smiled at her, hand reaching out. Amy. She woke up with tears in her eyes. The next morning, more odd things happened. Ghost was calmer than ever before. A song Ty once sang played on the radio by mistake. Even Jack said he thought he saw someone near the cabin, but when he looked, no one was there. Amy didn't know what to believe. She sat on the porch that evening, arms wrapped around her knees, staring at the horizon. If you're out there, she whispered, I miss you. Every day. The wind blew again, brushing her hair across her face. The same sound, that soft whistle, carried once more through the air. And Amy looked up, eyes wide, heart pounding. It was just before sunrise when Amy heard it again, the same whistle. Not from the wind this time. It was real, clear, close. She was in the kitchen pouring coffee when her hand froze in midair. Her breath caught in her chest. She set the cup down and walked slowly to the front door. Her fingers trembled as they touched the doorknob. Outside, the ranch was quiet. The morning air was cold. Mist rolled across the ground. Then, a shape. A tall figure walked slowly from the far end of the driveway. Amy stepped out onto the porch. Her eyes squinted in the light. For a second, her knees nearly gave out. It was him, Ty, older, thinner, his hair a bit longer, his eyes, tired but alive. He stopped a few feet from her. They stared at each other. No words. Just silence filled with years of pain, confusion, and hope. Amy didn't move. Didn't breathe. Ty? She whispered. He gave a slow nod. It's me. Tears filled her eyes. Her hand covered her mouth. She stepped forward, unsure if this was real. She reached out and touched his cheek, warm, solid, alive. Suddenly, she pulled him into a hug, tight, desperate, full of everything she had held back for so long. "You died," she said through sobs. "I buried you." "I know," Ty whispered. "I know." The sound of hooves broke the moment. Jack had seen something from the pasture and rode in fast. He jumped off his horse, ran up the steps, and froze. He dropped his hat. "Ty?" Jack's voice cracked. "What? How?" Lou came running next. Then Tim. Each one of them saw what they could not believe. Ty standing there, tired and quiet, alive after all these years. Lindy peeked from behind, Amy's legs. Her big eyes looked up at the stranger. "Mama." "Who's that?" Amy bent down and wrapped her arms around her daughter. Her voice broke. "That's your daddy." Lindy tilted her head. "But he's in the stars." Ty knelt down, face full of tears. But now I'm here. And I've missed you." The air felt heavier with every passing second. Jack grabbed Ty by the shoulders. "Are you real, boy? What is this? Some kind of trick?" "No trick," Ty said, his voice low. "It's me, I'm back, and I can explain." But could he really explain something so impossible? Inside the house, silence ruled. No one ate, no one moved. They just stared as Ty sat at the table he hadn't touched in years. Amy kept stealing. Glances like she was afraid he'd vanish again. Lou couldn't stop crying. Tim stood in the corner, arms crossed, still unsure what to believe. Jack finally broke the silence. "You better start talking, Ty, and it better make sense." Ty looked up, his hands were shaking. "I was never dead," he began. "Not really. They told you I was. But I was taken. Hidden. I didn't remember who I was for a long time." Room went cold. Amy leaned forward. "Taken? By who? Why?" Ty paused. "That's the part I'm still trying to understand. But someone didn't want me coming back. And now, I don't know if I'm safe here." Everyone looked at each other. Shock, fear, hope, all tangled into one moment. Amy stood up slowly. Her voice was steady. "You're safe now. You're home. And I don't care what we have to face, I'm not losing you again." Ty smiled gently, tears in his eyes. "I never wanted to leave." And with that, Heartland changed forever. The sun rose higher, but the warmth didn't reach the people inside the Heartland house. Ty's return had cracked something open, something too heavy, too complicated to fix with just a hug or tears. Amy sat at the table, eyes locked on Ty, her fingers curled around a warm coffee mug she hadn't touched. Jack stood by the window, arms folded tight across his chest. Lou paced silently, and Tim leaned against the wall like he was holding himself. Ty took a deep breath. "I didn't remember who I was for nearly 2 years. I woke up in a hospital far from here. My ID was gone. My memory, gone. The doctor said it was trauma. I had been found unconscious in the woods after some kind of attack." Amy whispered, "But we were told you died. We buried you." Ty's eyes filled with guilt. "I know. Someone wanted that to happen. Someone made sure you believed it. I still don't know who or why. But the worst part is, when my memory came back, I didn't come home right away." Jack snapped, "Why not, Ty? What reason could you possibly have?" "I was scared," Ty said, voice low. "I didn't know what I would find. I thought, maybe you moved on. Maybe Amy remarried. Maybe Lindy wouldn't even know me. I was ashamed. I felt like a ghost walking through someone else's life." Amy stood suddenly. Her chair scraped against the floor. "You think I could ever move on from you? Do you know how many nights I stayed awake talking to the stars, hoping, somehow, somewhere, you'd come back?" "I saw you once," Ty said quietly. "From far away. You were with Lindy at the market. I couldn't get out of the truck. I just watched." Amy's face went pale. "You were here? You were that close? And you didn't come back?" Ty's voice broke. "I wasn't ready." Silence fell again, but this time it was different, full of sharp pain and deep wounds. Lou sat down next to Amy. Ty, we don't know what this is yet. But if someone made you disappear, if someone let us bury an empty box, then this isn't just about healing. This is about finding the truth. Tim looked at Ty with suspicion. You remember anything about who did this to you? Any faces? Names? Ty shook his head. Just flashes, a room with bright lights. A woman's voice, a strange bracelet on my wrist, but I remember pain. And being told not to ask questions. Like they didn't want me remembering. Jack let out a deep sigh and finally spoke again. You were like a son to me. I held Amy when we buried you. I gave your eulogy. And now I don't even know how to look at you. I understand, Ty said. I didn't come back to be forgiven. I came back because I couldn't stay away anymore. Amy's hands were shaking. I want to be happy. I want to hold you and never let go. But I don't know how to trust this. What if you leave again? What if it's not over? Ty reached across the table. I can't promise answers, Amy. But I can promise one thing. I will not run again. Lindy entered the room quietly, holding a drawing she had made. Is this us? She asked, handing it to Ty. It was a stick figure family. Amy, Ty, Lindy, and a horse. Ty took it with trembling hands. Yes, sweetheart, he said. That's us. And for a brief moment, time paused. The house, heavy with questions, lit in a sliver of light. But outside, a black car rolled slowly past the ranch, its windows tinted, its presence unnoticed. Trouble was still watching. Night fell quietly over the ranch, but inside the house the air was thick with words left unsaid. The family had tried to act normal, shared a meal, told old stories, but nothing about this was normal. Fleming-Borden had come back from the dead, and now everyone was trying to understand what that meant. But healing doesn't begin with answers. It begins with honesty. Amy stood outside alone, wrapped in one of Ty's old flannel jackets. She looked up at the stars. The same stars she used to talk to when she thought Ty was one of them. Now he was real again, breathing under the same roof. And yet her heart was still unsure. Ty stepped out and stood beside her. For a long moment neither spoke. Then Amy whispered, You know what hurts the most? You were alive, and I still felt like a widow. Ty's voice cracked. I was alive, but I wasn't living. I wasn't myself. Not until I remembered you. Amy turned to face him. Do you know how hard it was to explain to Lindy that her dad was gone? I used to hold her and tell her stories about you, thinking that's all she'd ever have. Ty nodded, his eyes red. I heard her say something, yesterday. She said I came from the stars, that's what you told her? I had to give her something beautiful, Amy said softly, something to hold on to. They stood in silence, the wind moving gently around them. Then Amy reached for his hand. If you're staying, then stay. Fully. Don't leave again. Not even in your heart. I won't, Ty said. Not ever. Inside, Jack lit the fireplace. Lou sat beside him with a laptop, already digging into medical records and clues. Tim stepped out to check the barn, but not before giving Ty a short nod of acceptance, a small step forward. Later that night, Amy brought Lindy to Ty's room. She wants to say goodnight, she said, her voice quiet. Lindy climbed onto the bed. Can you tell me a story? She asked. Ty smiled and picked up her favorite book. As he read, his voice shook. This moment, something so simple, felt like the most sacred thing he'd ever done. When Lindy drifted to sleep, Amy stood at the door watching, tears in her eyes. You're doing good, she whispered. Ty set the book down and kissed Lindy's forehead. I don't want to waste another day. The next morning, Amy saddled 2 horses, hers and Ty's old one, Spartan. She walked into the kitchen and said, Let's ride. Ty grinned. Just like old times? She nodded. Let's find out if we still know how. They rode through the fields together, the wind in their hair, hooves pounding against the earth. For a moment it felt like the years had melted away, Laughter returned to Amy's face. Ty's hand brushed hers as their horses trotted side by side. At the top of the hill they stopped. The whole ranch lay below them, beautiful, quiet, unchanged. Amy turned to Ty. "You're not just a memory anymore. You're part of today." Ty nodded. "And I want to be part of every tomorrow." Behind them the sun rose higher, casting golden light across the fields. The past still lived in the shadows, but the future had finally begun.